Some leaders leave footprints, others leave libraries. You're tuning into the Authors on Mission podcast, where industry giants become literacy legends. In every episode, we talk with authors who turn their brilliance into books that transform lives. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authors on Mission. Welcome to your authorship experience. Have you ever wondered what life would be like if the voice that whispers, "not enough," finally fell silent? What if, instead of shrinking yourself to fit others' expectations, you could reclaim the courage that you were born with? Well, welcome to Authors on Mission podcast, where we journey into the minds and methods of writers who aren't just putting words on a page, they're transforming lives through their works. We're going to be discussing all of those powerful questions in today's episode. I'm your host, Danielle Hutchinson, Chief Creative Officer here at Authors on Mission, and today we're going to talk about the refreshing waters of courage with a guide who knows exactly what it's like to stand at the edge, terrified before taking that brave first step. I'd like to introduce Bernice McDonald, who has transformed her personal struggles, feelings of inadequacy into a mission of empowerment. She's the author of a few books, including Brave Enough to Be Myself and a bunch of other ones in the Little Books of Courage series. What makes Bernice's approach so wonderful is that she has a gentle insistence that we don't need to become someone new. We need to remember who we've been all along. She has a huge array professional experiences, some amazing writing strategies to share with us today, and I'm looking forward to discussing not only her book, but a journey back to ourselves. So get ready to meet your fear and name it. Bernice, you said you call yours Fred. And without further ado, Bernice, I'd love to welcome you onto the show. Welcome to Authors on Mission podcast.
I am so excited to be here with you, Danielle. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. It's always fun to meet new people, especially somebody as courageous and inspiring as yourself.
Thank you.
I mean, you yourself call it the journey of courage, for example, so it's great to, get to know you a little bit and talk about your books. So yeah, I'd love to dive right in then, if you don't mind giving us a little bit of a slight overview as to a little bit more about your experiences, perhaps anything I might have missed, and also what led you to starting to write that book, opening that Word document and beginning to type.
Yeah, all good questions. In your introduction, and thank you for that, by the way, you said, talking about standing on the edge and taking that step, it just took me right back. I had a flashback to when I went ziplining for the first time, only I think it was like 3 years ago. I didn't realize how much of a fear of heights I had. And so, getting up there was like a terror took over me. And to get myself to go off that platform, I didn't have a choice. I had to turn around and go backwards. So I think in lots of ways, that's how my journey of courage has been my whole life. I spent so much of my life afraid that I wasn't enough, afraid that, I wasn't living up to other people's expectations. I wasn't doing things right. I wasn't right. I always had to find ways to do things differently. So fast forward several decades, and I ended up becoming a coach. And so I've been a coach for about 22 years, part-time, most of that time, working full-time at a job. And working a lot. I seem to work a lot with women. I first of all coached in after my divorce. I took a lot of relationship coaching, so I coached a lot of women in that time. And it seems as if that's where I've gravitated to, is coaching women. So what I realized, because I had to learn so much about courage, so much about who I am, that and coaching is not always the easiest, and I love to teach. So I decided I'm going to write a book series. And I think what I'm called to do in this life is to help people be courageous, because fear is such a big factor in our lives. It's so easy to fall into fear, and it's so hard to stop being afraid. And so I wanted to write a series of books called The Little Books of Courage, and address just several different topics that women face all through their lives. I mostly work with, it seems like, women that are like 45 and over, but this applies to everybody. And as far as actually writing those first words on the page, yeah, that was trial and error, boy. It's like you have to come up with the idea and you just got to get so inspired and so into why you want to do this that you just start.
Thank you for sharing all of that. I'm really happy to know a little bit more about your experiences there. And you are right in the regard that you just have to get started. That's one of my number one pieces of advice for anybody trying to get into the writing world. Just get started out there. Once you have that idea, that's all you can do.
Exactly.
So definitely. So, that being said, you really have gone through, a huge journey like you just mentioned, but a lot of people are struggling with the same feelings of being not enough. You mentioned it wasn't until, about your 50s, you began to embrace it yourself. So, do you have any advice just right off the bat for anybody who might be struggling with the same thing? Perhaps that's a sneak peek into the content of your book, but perhaps we can get a little bit of a taste for what you might offer as guidance.
Yeah, I purposely, in fact, I call Brave Enough to Be Myself, my heart on paper, because, I started with that book because I think the toughest thing I've ever really had to learn was that I am enough. I see life and as this path that we're on, when we're born, we enter it. When we die, we leave it, right? And in between, all this stuff happens to us. Bombs go off, big things happen in our lives and boulders drop on us, like flattening us for a time where we can't get out from under it for a while. And we have to wiggle our way out. Other people throw rocks at us, like words and expectations and criticisms. For what I was doing before that really led to me feeling not enough was I was letting other people define who I am. I was letting all of those things that happen to us on our path mean that, well, I probably deserved it. Somebody threw that rock at me, said those mean things. I probably deserved it. Or this thing happened to me. Oh yeah, that's just the way my life goes, right? So I was making it all mean as if somehow I was generating all those things that happened, when actually what I had to do was take a step back and realize that life throws those things at us, and our job here is just to respond to every single one. Something happens and we have that little window when we kind of freeze and we think we have to think about right there, oh, who am I going to be in this moment? What am I going to do with this? And it's coming from that place of strength inside of us. When you tap into that strength, then your response is totally different than if you're thinking, oh no, I'm going to blow it again, or I'm going to, do something wrong. I'm going to make a mistake again, and it really, when I found that transformation, totally changed my life. I realized my identity was not dependent on what I did or what I said or the mistakes I made.
Yeah, I like that. You can't hold yourself to what other people say about you. It's not your fault if they, as you said, throw a rock in your direction. It's more about embracing the positive things and learning from them, and everything that you just mentioned too. And I could see how your book really does embody that. And one thing that you did mention when I was looking through your book is that fear is a huge thing for us to get over with, but you describe it as it's your brain just kind of doing its job rather than something to eliminate. So I really do like that perspective. I'm wondering, how does that perspective help us approach fear in a different light? I'm sure that's something also that you offer within your guidance and in the books itself too, right?
Yeah, because as you're going through every day, as you're walking through your life, you never know what's around the corner, right? And sometimes when something happens or when you're faced with a new opportunity, all of a sudden you get all of this fear coming up in your body. Now, the thing about fear that I learned, and it's a scientific thing, is that, fear is actually a protector, a mechanism built into our brains to keep us from, jumping off a roof or petting a bear. Like when those kind of opportunities present themselves, fear is there to say, whoa, don't do that or you're going to die. Don't, like, be careful, because so fear really is something that protects us from destroying ourselves. But the thing about fear is it cannot tell if your life is actually in danger, or if you are just facing something that you're nervous about or anxious about, or where you're afraid of falling on your face or how you're going to look in front of other people. It can't tell the difference because all the same sensations come up in your body. So when I realized that that's where your decision making comes in. You can decide at that point when something scary happens and you say, right away, your tendency is to stop, the fight or flight thing. But in some cases, we have to say, whoa, is this life-threatening? Or is this just something that I need to do in order to grow? So that's that mechanism, that thing that kicks in, that is our protector. And when you realize that, you can start to sort of step away from it and let it be there like a tool in your brain. And you realize it's not you. You are the one who makes the decision about what you do with that.
It kind of reminds me of your chapter, When Shame Whispers Not Enough. And, in that chapter, you talk about how you need to kind of rephrase those sorts of fears and sayings from I am a mistake to I made a mistake, not defining yourself by that. So I'm just relating that back to what you were saying. I was just thinking how that's, those two pieces are kind of related like that.
Exactly. And that is such an important thing for us to latch onto, isn't it? Because, I think the reason many of us get to the place where we hardly have any courage to step out and do something new is because all the experiences we've had on our path before now have led us to a place where we think, a mistake identifies me. It means I'm not very bright. It means I'm not very good at this. It means this or this or this. And it's not true at all. Usually, what we have to do, and this is what I had to do really, was to get back to that path and see myself as a person, just a person, an individual there that hasn't done anything. That's my worth, is that I am valuable just because I exist, just because I am here in this life. I am valuable. What I do does not, isn't really tied to who I am. So when I do something that is not very intelligent, or I don't make a very wise decision, then really that is something to learn from, something that I can take and then apply to building my character, to becoming more of who I want to be. It doesn't mean anything about who I am.
Exactly what I was thinking too. And it's really clear how you, get that across in your book, so anybody picking it up can, get a good idea of that and perhaps practice it themselves. I'm wondering if now is probably a good time for us to transfer into the book itself and, the writing process as well. You mentioned you always loved to write. Your best heart expressions have always been through writing. So when did you discover this connection with writing, and how did it evolve as you started, getting it onto the pages and continuing with your multiple books?
I never really thought I could ever write a book, really, because, books are so high and lofty, and authors are such amazing people. So again, that goes back to my own identity, right? Thinking, oh, I'm not enough to do that. But when I look back over my life, I have always had a joy of writing. I used to write stories with my cousin all the time when we were kids, and we would come up with these crazy, amazing stories, that we would write. And looking back, I thought, wow, I wasn't that bad. But then also, all through my life, even if it's just writing a card to somebody or a note of encouragement, I always seem to be able to put my heart into those words in a way that other people didn't always take the time to do. And then I got into coaching and I started to write blogs and do things like that. And then AI came on the scene, which was just amazing because it helped me to generate ideas, came up, helped me to be more creative. And so there was a time when I just finally said, I want to leave a legacy in the world. I want to leave something here for people when I'm gone. And so I decided I'm just going to write a book. I took some writing courses and I developed some of that. And I thought, this really isn't that hard. I mean, it is hard work.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
That's kind of how I got here. Yeah.
I mean, you kind of you hit the nail right on the head when you mentioned about how it's a little bit more intimidating to write a book. But and then at the end of the day, it's not so much because it's about the same as writing any of those other forms that you mentioned. It's just about putting your ideas and hearts and souls onto a page, no matter how long it might be. You know what I mean? So I can see how you've developed that mindset as you've continued on.
Yeah. And if we're all designed in a certain way. If writing is something that you want to do, I think that's a clue. I think it means that you should do it. We need to pay attention to that and not just, that's what the whole thing about fear is. We push so many of the good things away that really, if we would just try them out and experiment with them, we might end up, in a place where we have a lot of adventure and turning that off or tamping it down is just going to block us from that. And what a shame that would be.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to block yourself off in any way, just like you don't want to block off your mindset and all those different shadows you were mentioning before. Same with the writing world. Don't block yourself off. Don't hold yourself in one place. Expand yourself and see what we can do.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, that being said, I'm wondering a little bit more about the process itself. Did you incorporate any research or mainly personal experiences or perhaps any interviews? I'm just kind of curious about the development of it all.
Well, I wanted to include a lot of the coaching foundation that I had developed over time. And in the last couple of years, because I've been coaching full time, I was able to give a lot of thought as to what I really want my message to be and how I want to coach. And so I have to say that framework played a lot into how I structured my book and how I am structuring the rest of my books as well. They are all a foundation for how I coach. So I have a 4-part framework that I use that I'm building my books around. And that's been a really helpful thing. That's been something that makes it easier to come up with the ideas. Coming up with an outline, you just structure around that same way. I just am on the brink of publishing the second book. The first book, I'm using as a kind of a template, but I am changing the second one a little bit. And I want to write the others that I'm planning in that same kind of format. So, it's been a lot easier just having a structure, coming up with an outline, and then filling that outline in.
Yeah, and I agree completely. There's some authors out there who kind of just start writing and go with the flow. Others, like myself, definitely leave that outline. I work with so many different clients all the time, helping them write their books. You need to be in agreement with where the book's going to go, what's going to go in every chapter, and that's the only way you can make sure that all of your ideas are being preserved. You mentioned how important legacy is. For example, how are you going to preserve your whole legacy if you forget to add something in or you have the incorrect order that's not the best format? It's great that you have that structure now, and moving forward, you can apply it to the rest of your writing. I think it's something we could all learn from.
Exactly. That must be so fun working with all those authors and coming up with
it's
all
wonderful. Yeah, it's great to meet new people and learn from that. And you get to do the same thing with your coaching, which is really wonderful too.
And, as you mentioned, I think what really helped me was finally coming up with that, that one statement that I want to say through my books. And, perhaps it would be through one book for some people, but for me, the series of books were about moving from not enough to brave enough. And so, that's the message that I wanted to convey to women and to the world in general, is that you don't have to stay in that not enough place. You don't even have to go from not enough to being enough. All you have to do is move from not enough to being brave enough. And then I started to think, well, how do you do that? And so in all these different scenarios, how can we do that? And so that's where I'm coming up with my ideas.
Yeah, I like
So,
that a lot. And you do have a beautiful book cover, by the way. I see right there behind you. I'm wondering if you'd like to shine a little light on the beautiful light on the cover of your book right there. I think it's
oh,
really beautifully done. Did you design the cover yourself or did you have a team?
I did. I did. That's one of those things too. You sort of think, oh, I can't do this. But what I did was I listened to a lot of YouTube videos actually about designing covers and some of the elements. I looked into what color would be appropriate for what I wanted, the message I wanted to convey. And then I was recommended to go on to Amazon and check out books that are kind of in similar topics, your heart, becoming who you really are. And that's the tone that every one of my books will take. And so I thought, that's like being a light. That's like a lamp. Okay, a lamp, there's a flame inside, that would work. And so I eventually just came up with the bowl with the flame on Canva. And then I took it and I just played with some other elements. And I love gold. We are like gold being refined in a fire. And so I loved navy blue. The deep blues are my business colors. That's from my brand. And so the gold goes well with that. And that's how it all came together. You just kind of play with it until, something works. So
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And it's really cool that you knew to search and kind of see what else is already out there, compare it to what was successful. Sometimes you need to look around and brainstorm a bit when you're trying to generate new ideas. And that kind of applies in many different areas of life. For example, I understand, in terms of your tiny brave steps that you have, you also created a tool for idea generation. I'm wondering if you'd like to share a little bit about that. I think that's a really cool up and coming thing that we can all check out. Can you share a little bit about that for us?
I would love to, because I am just so excited. I am working with a coach, and she's the one who recommended that I do my own GPT. So I went to Chat GPT and started working with it, where you can generate your own little bot, I guess it is. I had already created all of the foundation for my business. I have a document that's all about the problem I solve. I have a document about how I solve that problem. I have a document that is my philosophy. So what I did was I just took all of those things and I plugged them into the chat bot where it was developing it. And I also said, what I want to do is have something where, because I'm such a believer in taking small steps, you don't have to take big leaps. The small steps are the key to actually getting anywhere in this life. And generally, you shouldn't be trying to take more than 3 little ones at a time. And so that's what I told the bot to do. And so now we came up according to my framework. It generated this whole idea of that, where someone can come, they can say, this is my issue, this is my problem right now, this is what I'm struggling with. And then it will work with you, ask you some more questions. How are you feeling about that? So how does that make you feel? What have you done so far to work with this problem? And it asks you about 3 or 4 questions like that. And then it will say, okay, I'm getting that you are here and this is what's happening. I'm going to give you 3 steps that you can take to move you forward. And that's what it does. And it's really this is something I have done on my own for a long time with the AI bots, but this is so cool to see some of my own tools enter in here to help people understand who they are and what they need to do next.
Yeah, first off, this is a completely new and unique thing that I've heard an author doing. I talk to many different authors all the time, A lot of people have their podcasts, they have their YouTube channels, they have their speaking engagements, consulting, but an AI tool that's very unique and very amazing, an amazing way to promote your brand and also give your readers and audience a practical tool to get involved with what you're providing to them. That's really incredible. Was it a struggle to create that, or was it a relatively easy process?
No, because it wasn't a struggle for me because I already had those other things developed. In fact, I use those documents continually, even when getting ideas for my books. I will say, okay, here's my philosophy. This is what I believe in life. Oh, I also have a story library that I've been compiling over the last few months of all the stories that support all of the courage steps that I've taken. And so I can give AI those documents, and then I say, okay, review those documents so that you understand who I am and what my brand is and what my business is. And so then from there, I'd like you to help me with this blog post or this YouTube script, or or get in some ideas for my book. And it's amazing how when you give it that information, it can spit all of that stuff out, and you're just going, wow, it's like you're inside my head. It's amazing, and that's how the tool is too. And it was very easy. It just asks you a few questions, and then you can experiment, you can change it up, you can try it out, and you can just tweak it until you feel like it's giving you the results that you want.
Definitely. Well, again, very, very cool idea, very cool concept. I'm wondering now, though, if I want to test it out myself, or if somebody listening today wants to test it out, or also get involved in your other channels and ways to get in touch with you, where can we go? How can we get connected? What are the links?
The links on my website is very easy. It's bernicemcdonald.com. And when you go there, at the top, there is a tab there for Tiny Brave Steps Generator. It will take you to the download and then the link comes to you and you just go for it. So that's the easiest way to do that. I also do have a YouTube channel, which is also Bernice McDonald. I have a Facebook business page, Bernice McDonald. And LinkedIn is Bernice McDonald. So it's easy to find me if you know my name.
Perfect. Well, we're going to put all of those links in the description box of this podcast too. So if you're listening today, everybody, when we're finished, go ahead and click on over, check it out. I would love to check it out myself because it sounds like a really cool tool as well. So yeah, let's all do that right after this. It'll be a little piece of homework for us.
Yes. And please let me know what you think of it. Let me know if it gave you some good answers, because, your feedback would help me to be able to make it better, and just to know that it's working. I think the primary reason that I want something like this, and I think it's so cool, is that people don't always jump right into working with a coach. They don't always, they might identify with the fact that, hey, I need to do a little bit of work in this area, or I wish I knew how to do this or this. And so I thought this would give them instant access to start them thinking and spark their imagination.
I like that. Yeah. And, it's a perfect tool. It's unique. It's new. So I'll definitely let you know. I'll give it a try.
Great.
All that said, I'm wondering, do you happen to have any other piece of advice for the audience today, be it about bravery and resilience, or the writing process in general, or either or?
Well, my mantra in life is don't be afraid to do things that are scary. The quote that really has defined my journey in the last probably 25 years is by Ambrose Redmoon. I don't know if you've heard of it, but he said, courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than the fear. And I have lived by that. You can go ahead and fear is just a feeling, and it's not necessarily a roadblock. What you need to do is take back your power and say, thank you very much for the warning, but I need to go ahead and do this anyways, because I need to grow. And I think that if you do that, you will be amazed how you find out that things are really not that scary. We just blow them up to look like they are in our own minds.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's all you have to do is that little bit of perspective change and to figure out what exactly is the best.
Exactly.
So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. So yeah, everybody, after this podcast today, please check out all the links is what I mean to say. Check out Bernice's materials and just stay in the loop. These are all amazing tips that can help you regardless of where you are in life and what your needs might be. So yeah, thank you again for coming on to the show. This has been an amazing conversation today.
I really enjoyed it, Danielle. Thank you so much for having me. And all I can say is keep being brave, grow that courage.
Thank you for that. No, it's been a great honor, and thank you again. We do have to remember, courage isn't something we need to search for; it's something to remember. And brave enough to be myself is a great tool for us to get in touch with that in ourselves. So to all of our listeners that are thinking they're also not enough in their own lives, remember Bernice's words. One of the quotes I pulled from your materials is, "Your worth isn't measured by your mistakes. Their quirks are your strange jewels. Your story is still unfolding." And I love that. I think that's a great way to end the podcast today. Some words of wisdom as well.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you again. Everybody listening, this is Danielle Hutchinson at Authors on Mission, where we believe every author's journey becomes part of our own. Until next time, may you find the courage to be exactly who you're meant to be. Keep writing, keep reading, keep inspiring. We'll see you next time on Authors on Mission podcast. This is Danielle Hutchinson reminding you that somewhere, someone needs the book that only you can write. Visit authorsonmission.com to start your legacy. Until next time, keep leading, keep inspiring, and keep thinking in chapters. Have a great day.